What up, everyone? It's Chris. I know y'all were probably thinking, "Oh man, this man's not gonna do a post-fight video because his fighter Angulo lost." Nah, that's not the case. I just been under the weather, man, so off to a late start today. And last night was feeling like garbage. Plus, I had to watch a gang of fights last night after Angulo with UFC and Showtime broadcasts. So, anyways, though, man, yeah, I just pretty much want to talk about the Angulo Kirkland bout. Well, if at least I was right on my prediction in two things. One, I said both fighters would probably hit the canvas, and that happened in the first round, which was one of the most exciting rounds this year. That round was what I think a majority of fans thought the fight was going to look like for the entire fight. You know, um, and number two, my other prediction, I guess, was right. 6 round stoppage. Just wasn't the guy that got stopped. I was wrong on the guy who got stopped. But yeah, as far as the fight itself, I'll tell you this, first off. I was kind of surprised because it seemed like Golden Boy was promoters for the fight. They wanted Angulo to win the fight, or they thought he was going to win the fight. So I was surprised when the HBO piece was done on James Kirkland. But it worked out for them because I was thinking, well, Kirkland's probably going to lose this fight. So that was all a bit of a waste. But it worked out perfectly for them, showing him reworking with Anwolf and, of course, the ensuing results which happened afterwards. But yeah, man, that first round was crazy. Angulo, like I said, Kirkland, he gets wild. He's wide open for counters. And Angulo nailed him with that right hand, sat him on his ass. Kirkland, to his credit, got up. Much like in the Ashita fight, he did get up from his knockdowns and he wanted to get up from the third one, which the ref didn't allow. Watching this fight now kind of makes you what would have happened if he would have been allowed to get back up. Would he be able to survive that round and maybe turn things around? But that's neither here nor there for the moment. But yeah, he got up. Angulo was all over him, trying to finish the fight. I think after having watched that first round a few times, I think one of the reasons why Angulo was, first off, you got to give Kirkland credit. His improved conditioning, obviously, when you're in better shape or better conditioning, you're going to be able to sustain punishment a little bit better than you were if you weren't fully prepared. So that helped. The other thing, though, is although Angulo was landing a lot of shots on James Kirkland once he got up, and he came close to stopping him. I think, thank goodness for fans and for Kirkland, it wasn't the same referee who refed the Quillen McGee fight earlier in the night, which I thought had a premature stoppage, because if that would have been the same ref, he probably would have stopped that fight when Kirkland was in the corner and Angulo was all over him, whether or not he was landing a really hard shot. But yeah, I just think that Angulo wasn't really sitting down and landing a lot of punches. He was throwing a lot, like he tends to do, but he wasn't really, he was just kind of overwhelming Kirkland, but he wasn't really landing, he wasn't placing really solid fight finishing punches. Really just going for that 1 or 2 shot that could really end the fight, that could really finish or hurt Kirkland off, and punched himself out. Kirkland, of course, you got to give the man credit. Rather than swinging back, which a lot of fighters would do, they just start swinging back in defense, going crazy, and it's something you would think he would do. He covered up well for the most part, and he just kind of stayed in his shell, and he kind of moved around the ring. He didn't stay in one spot. He defended as well as he could have in that position for the most part, without tying up, no less. Neither of these guys were really looking to tie up much in the fight at all. So for not tying up and being able to stay in the fight, definitely credit to Kirkland for that as well. And then, yes, of course, with about a minute left, Angulo suddenly slowed down, seemed a little bit punched out, and Kirkland started landing some bombs. He landed overhand right. He landed an uppercut, started to back Angulo up. I think Kirkland sensed that Angulo was tired, and then he may have hurt him with one of those punches, jumped all over him, pushed him to the corner, and just really started unloading on him. He was just lacing him. And, Roy Jones said, he's done. And it looked like he was done. It looked like he had no legs. And then Kirkland, of course, dropped him. And so, yeah, both guys go down the first round. And you got to give credit to Angulo as well for getting up, because he got hurt a lot more in his knockdown than Kirkland did in his. So he got up. But after that, man, it was just all Kirkland. I don't know if it was the punches. They say that Angulo punched himself out. That may be the case. But I don't know if he punched himself out or if it was just the accumulation of what the punches that Kirkland landed that first round. But from the first round on, it was all James Kirkland. Angulo just did not look right after that first round. As the fight progressed, he looked worse and worse. By the third, fourth round, he had 0 legs. He had nothing on his punches. Those punches were just, there was nothing to them. There was no snap. There was no crispness. There was nothing. They weren't coming straight. They were just terrible. There were no threat to James Kirkland. James Kirkland he had his way with Angulo because Angulo could do nothing to threaten James Kirkland from that point on. And Kirkland pretty much dominated. Dominated every round from there on. regardless of Harold Ledman read off the scorecards, Kirkland's probably for the best got to stop, but you might end up with a draw based on the way those scorecards were looking. But yeah, sixth round, the ref finally stops it, deservingly so. This fight could have been stopped sooner. Honestly, I know you want to let a guy go down in the shield, but if I was in Angulo's corner, I might have stopped the fight earlier. It was obvious that he had nothing left in the tank and nothing to offer, and he wasn't going to be able to turn the fight around by the fourth, fifth round. It was clearly obvious. So, great stoppage win for James Kirkland. Great cover behind. I guess him being with Ann Wolf may be the key to his success. We shall see moving forward, but it's definitely the case here. A bad loss for Angulo. Who knows what it was. Maybe he didn't have the same conditioning coach from what I've heard. Maybe he just didn't train hard enough. I don't know what it was exactly. But, but the fact of the matter is he lost to the better fighter last night. But I will say this about Alfredo Angulo. He's still my favorite fighter to watch in the sport currently. And he will be moving forward. And this, he showed a hell of a chin. He got knocked down hard in the first round. He never went down again. He got hit with a lot of solid punches. And even at the end of the fight, he never went down again. So he showed a solid beard. And he showed a lot of heart, I guess you would say. Because he didn't quit. He kept trying, even though he had nothing to go on other than pretty much instinct. He was still in there fighting and trying his best. He just didn't have anything to offer. So, good performance by James Kirkland. Bad performance, or bad loss, I should say, for Alfredo Angulo. But it's sort of interesting to see how these guys' careers go moving forward. This is one of those fights where you hope, maybe a couple years down the line, 3, 4 years, 2, 3 years, I don't know, depending on how their careers pan out. Wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, because you never can tell how a fight's going to go. So, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that. Don't really have much about to say about any other fights last night. That kid on Kote Apu on the opening Showtime broadcast looked good. Looks to be a talent to look out for. Kind of reminded me of Yorick Gamboa when he first arrived on the scene. And Butte dominated Glenn Johnson. Glenn just didn't have it last night. Butte just had his way with them. Good one for Butte. And Glenn, hopefully he'll bounce back in his next fight. That's it for now, though. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on the fight? I guess I want to hear, I don't know. What is there really to say about it? I think I said it all, but I just want to hear your thoughts on what you thought about the fight in general, and why you think it played out the way it did. Why do you think Angulo tired so fast? The last one I saw a fighter that fatigued that early, or that dead on his feet, after having success early on, was Vladimir Klitschko against Lamont Brewster, where after the second round, Vladimir Klitschko, the first fight, was just done, just had nothing to offer. That's what it reminded me of. Anyways, that's it for now, guys. ScienceDeviance.com, link in there for the video as always, as well as link to my Twitter. Till next time.